I got about maybe 20 to 30 minutes to spare. You know, we'll go as long as I can go because I'm finna get up and go to the gym. So I want to talk about Pacquiao versus um Errol Spence, and that fight is 3 weeks away. I'm gonna talk about the situation with Bud and Sean Porter and how it's looking like once again um, the fans could be possibly left hanging. And I'm just gonna tell you guys to start accepting the truth about certain things that's going on in boxing. Accept the truth about things that's going on behind the scenes. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, I'm credible with the stuff that I say. I talk to people, and most of the stuff that I said was gonna happen was gonna happen. Keep in mind, I was one of the first people that's reported months before it was even announced that Tank was possibly gonna go up and fight Mario Barrios. But I'm not gonna sit here tooting my own horn all day and night. People know what I contribute. People know what I do. That's why it's called Town Business Sports Media. Now, I need to make this very clear, and they can take it however they want. They got a problem with it, they can call me and we can discuss it. But I'm gonna make this very clear. When you come on my channel, if you don't like my take on whatever I'm talking about, I done said this on several occasions. Say why you don't like it, and then bounce. But I'm not finna tolerate nobody disrespecting me on my own platform. I'm not your fucking kid, and I'm not some random dude that you can talk to any old kind of way. Respect my platform or don't bring your ass on my platform. And that's just the bottom line. Real talk. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna make that very clear. Respect my stuff. Okay? You disagree with something I have to say, you take that demeaning me and all that kind of stuff, go take that shit somewhere else. But don't come on my platform disrespecting my platform. And this the last time I'm gonna say this. Real talk. So, all right. So, just wanted to give that disclaimer right quick. All right. So, and a story that just basically came out of nowhere. And I mean, this story just came out of nowhere. It was first brought to my attention by, Black Reality TV. Not that he does his research, but it just came out of nowhere when you was hearing about the possibility of Tank Davis versus Keith Thurman, that Tank would be going up to 147 to fight Keith Thurman. And, Keith Thurman, he didn't say exactly yay or nay, but he was like, well, it could happen. Okay. Um, I want to talk about the Aerospace Manny Pacquiao undercard. Um, well, not I thought Boots Ennis was gonna be on the undercard, but it looked like he's not gonna be part of the undercard, or at least not the pay-per-view. They have who's gonna be on the pay-per-view. Ugas will be featured and somebody else. Okay. Uh Definitely won't be getting to that fight early. So more than likely the main event ain't gonna start to around maybe nine something anyway. Usually the main event, the first bell, usually the bell don't ring till a little bit after 9. So hopefully, and based off what I'm seeing that's on the card, I don't think there's gonna be some knockouts because Ugas is not a knockout artist, and Ugas will be defending his title from what I see because Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao isn't really for a title. Uh, you know, so Ugas is still the WBA champion. Now, depending on what happens with Ugas, if Ugas is successful, um, they could match him up with possibly Terrence Crawford. If Terrence Crawford's business is in order, you hearing that Terrence Crawford may have to do one more fight with Top Rank, even if he does do the Sean Porter fight. So you never know. But like I said, I don't like the undercard. But let me get back to this Keith Thurman, Tank Davis possible fight. I don't like that fight for Tank Davis at all. Um, that's just not a. I think that wouldn't fare well for Tank. Tank is a good fighter, but in no way, shape, or form, your first fight at 147 should be against the likes of Keith Thurman. And I think to a certain degree, we selling Keith Thurman short if you think Keith Thurman is going to legitimately lose to Tank Davis. Now, I know there's people that's upset about what Keith Thurman said about Errol Spence and the sparring session, the footage. I saw the footage, and like I said before, I gave my assessment of it. Um, some people making it out to be worse than what it really is, or by their standards, they think it could be problematic for Errol Spence. We ain't gonna know till 3 weeks from now. Hopefully, if there is a fight. Hopefully, if there is a fight, because with Manny doing all this reckless training, and then you hearing about Paradigm Sports, they're trying to stop this fight from happening because they saying that Manny gave them, the shift, and he stiffed them out of $3 million. He was allegedly was going to fight Mikey Garcia, and he basically cost him $3 million. So they're trying to stop the fight, which they're not going to do that fight unless Manny, unless something happens, unless there's an injury and whatnot. That fight's going to happen. So um, now to me, it just seemed like it's, from what I'm seeing, it's like a countdown, but it's a countdown with hesitation because like I said before, I don't like these public workouts that I've been seeing with Manny Pacquiao, and then some of his fans were just getting besides themselves. I gave an honest assessment, and then they started attacking me, which that didn't bother me. So, whatever. But um Tank versus Keith Thurman, that's I don't think that's a good idea. But at the end of the day, I've been hearing a lot of stuff that's going on behind the scenes with PBC. A lot of stuff, credible resources and everything. But I don't want to get people in trouble. But it's a lot of stuff that you've been hearing that's going wrong with PBC. You've been hearing issues such as sabotage, rooting against their own, and that kind of stuff. They're not the close knit unit that they try to pretend to be. But then again, they've never pretended to be because, like I said, look how you have PBC people always trying to talk down on other PBC people. But the thing is, with me, it's this thing where you have some of these content creator extremists, PBC extremists, where they try to pretend like if you speak out against the PBC and Al Heyman, you some kind of sellout. And that's not the case. But the funny thing is, the dudes that's calling you, trying to insinuate you off code and you a sellout to some of the biggest sellouts out there, you know, they talk all that black stuff, but then they don't really practice what they preach. But I'm a further go into that later on. So it's just a lot of situations and things that I'm just hearing that's going on behind the scenes with the PBC, and it's a mess. I hope that's not the case what I've been hearing, but from what I've been observing, I believe that a lot of it is true, and that's just real. So now you hearing that Sean Porter might be looking for a way out of the Terrence Crawford fight after reports were saying he was strongly campaigning for this fight, and then the WBO orders Sean Porter versus Bud, and then everybody was sitting up here getting excited, and then Sean is talking about he gonna let the business side uh take his course. So I try to tell these people, don't believe the hype. Like Public Enemy once said, I keep trying to tell you that they don't really be wanting to do business with outside promotional companies because they already said if it go to a purse bid and PBC win the purse bid, Bud get um it's a 60-40 split or something in favor of Bud, which I think is fair because Bud is the champion. But if they try to use the excuse, well, money is is the problem, then you have to look at the PBC because the PBC is expected to win the purse bid. If Top Rank doesn't want to put up the money for the fight. But I've been trying to say this for the longest. But people don't want to listen because what they want to do is get on their channels and just strictly point the finger at one person. And they use that as an excuse. So I'm telling you right now, if Sean Porter versus Bud don't get made, then at the end of the day, they put this in the PBC's hands. If they trying to entice Bud to come over to the other side of the street, well, this is their opportunity. If Top Rank doesn't want to put up the money for the fight, then let the PBC handle it. But it appears they don't want to do that. So, like I said, this is going to be a very bad look. You know, Sean tweeted something and then he took it down. So a lot of people thought that was suspect. He was shocked. He said he was kind of shocked, but then, you know, I mean, why are you shocked? I thought Bud is the fight that you was clamoring for. I thought that's the fight that you really wanted. And then you get these people that try to negotiate on behalf of PBC. You know, you talking about $1 million and all this stuff, and they're trying to undervalue Sean and all that kind of stuff. You know, I know for a fact that Sean was offered more than in the first attempt. He was offered more than $1 million. That was just something they threw out there, and I heard from the people myself that they was offered more than $1 million. I already did this. People want to complain about, well, Amir Khan allegedly got $6 million. So how come they only offered Danny Garcia $3 million to fight Terrence Crawford? But then my thing is, well, why did you take 1.2 to fight Adrian Granados? Last time I checked, but this has been going on for a minute with them doing that. I keep telling you, they say they'll go over there and they'll threaten to fight Terrence Crawford, and then what'll happen is they'll get a low risk fight and they may get paid like $1 million and some change or close to 2 million. Because at the end of the day, they don't want to do business with Top Rank and vice versa. You have to understand people don't want to share uh promotional duties with these companies now because you had the TV networks in the way and all this stuff. But I already know somebody gonna come on here eventually talk about what Bob Arum has said about Bud and how he can build a mansion. But what does that have to do with the other stuff? How long is you gonna use that as a crutch? How long is people gonna use that as a crutch to get around the fact that the other side of the street ain't trying to make big fights as well as Top Rank? Like I said, Top Rank specialized with this in the mid, you know what I'm saying, in the mid 2000s. So I'm just saying I've seen this before. The problem that you have with YouTube, people only when they trying to push an agenda, they only want to push what one person is saying and what one person is doing, where me, I tried to be objective throughout the whole thing. Like I said, if this fight doesn't happen, then I don't want to hear nothing, because they have put this in basically in PBC's hands. If Bob Arum doesn't want to foot the bill for this fight, well, he's gonna put Al Heyman and the PBC in a position to where they can get full promotional rights to this fight and get Bud to cross over to the other side of the street. If you really want Bud to be part of the PBC, then this, what better way? And who knows? Everybody keep talking about numbers and all this kind of stuff. Bud versus Sean Porter will do some solid numbers. It'll do solid pay-per-view numbers. It'll do uh great ticket sales depending on the location. So I'm just saying, I just don't want to report what I've been hearing been going on behind the scenes and stuff. So like I said, it's a lot of shaky stuff going on behind the scenes. You just seen the Canelo fight fall apart. Canelo was guaranteed $40 million, and he didn't want to do it because random drug tests. Are you serious? Random drug tests stopped you from fighting Caleb Plant? I mean, is you that big of a fraud? Well, it might not be no fight, but like I said, if this fight falls through, then what are people gonna say now? You seen the video Blue talked about where he kind of got on Team Porter. You said you wanted this fight, so now okay, let's make this fight. People want to see this fight. I wanted to see Caleb Plant versus Canelo, but I kind of knew that fight wasn't gonna happen. Canelo was comfortable with what he got going on with Eddie Hearn in the zone. Bibble is the easier fight to make. And I don't know if they'll give Canelo Arthur Beterbiev. And the thing is, will Canelo be able to, you know, bully Arthur Beterbiev in a contract? You got Bibble talking about, well, what weight class we fighting at? First of all, it should be at 175. If it's a title shot, then it should be at 175. You the champion. You the champion. You gonna let Canelo make you fight at a catch weight, and you the champion? And that's what I don't understand. How did Canelo become the so-called cash cow? Like, I don't understand why these dudes are like putting their career on hold to fight Canelo. How did Canelo become the heir apparent when he got the hell beat out of him by Floyd Mayweather? He got the hell beat out of him. It's not, how was that a passing of the torch? But then again, like I said before, Floyd had this thing about looking out for black fighters. You know, it is what it is. I could dissect Canelo's resume, and people try to say, look at the people who Canelo has fought. Well, yeah, let's look at the people Canelo has fought. Was Billy Joe Sanders in anybody's top 10? No. What about the dude before that? He fought. No. What about the dude before that? No. Daniel Jacobs was a good fighter, but Daniel Jacobs wasn't never in anybody's pound for pound. Now, you want to talk about his biggest fights? Carlos Boldemir, washed up. And not to mention a predator. Sugar Shane Mosley, way past his prime. And he couldn't even knock out Sugar Shane Mosley or hurt Sugar Shane Mosley. Miguel Cotto. Some people think Miguel Cotto did enough to win that fight versus Canelo. I know Canelo versus Cotto, a fight that I went to see. Canelo lost the first 4 rounds to Miguel Cotto. Clearly. And had to come from behind. And Canelo was, you know, Canelo couldn't finish Miguel Cotto. He couldn't finish Austin Trout. So when I hear people sitting up here making it look like Canelo just fought world beater after world beater, that's not true. I'm just keeping it. I'm just keeping it a buck. That's just not true. The guy he fought at Madison Square Garden, he wasn't a world beater. See what you have is fanboyism. When it's their favorite fighter, what they'll try to do is they will try to enhance a fighter and make him better than what he really was. And then let's just face the fact, who were these dudes when they fought Canelo? Who had they fought? Who was they coming off a win versus? Say what you want to say about Bud. When he fought Jeff Horn was coming off a win versus Manny Pacquiao that he won by unanimous decision. So that's when I don't understand when people sit up there and say, well, Bud fought Jeff Horn, so that don't mean that. But Jeff Horn beat Manny Pacquiao. But that's what people do. They will either try to demean who somebody didn't fought or, enhance it. And that's what we have here. But I'm just telling the truth about Canelo. So when people try to tell me that he's number one and I have to say he's number one, well, no, I don't. Like I said, I could pick apart Errol Spence's resume. Everybody has flaws in their resume. Every fighter got some kind of technical flaw. Manny Pacquiao is the name. Why you think Errol Spence fighting him? Because of his name. So when you beat a guy like Manny Pacquiao, who was once the number one pound for pound fighter, who went on to rebound from the Jeff Horn fight, and he went on to beat Keith Thurman. Okay. He made his status go back up. That's what people don't seem to understand. It's name value. You need to understand something. Terrence Crawford, when he fought Jeff Horn, he beat the man that beat the man. So people never look at it that way. But they too busy trying to, enhance people's pay-per-view numbers and all that kind of stuff. Because I'm just keeping it 100. 200,000, 300,000 pay-per-view numbers don't make you a superstar. That's okay. You didn't have 3 pay-per-views and you still ain't hit 500,000. Deontay Wilder then had 3 pay-per-views and his pay-per-views have sold over 1 million pay-per-views. So you tell me who's a bigger pay-per-view star. I'm just saying, his rematch versus Tyson Fury did between 700 and 800,000. He did Ortiz, they said he did between 175 to 200,000. And then the first Tyson Fury fight did somewhere between, allegedly, because you never know what the real pay-per-view numbers are. And then once again, the first fight with Tyson Fury did between, they saying somewhere between, 200, 250. So technically, Deontay Wilder is a bigger pay-per-view star than Errol Spence. But all right, let me guess. I'm a sellout, right? Last time I checked, Deontay Wilder was black, and this is what guys don't be wanting to talk about. And I just presented facts, or according to reports, I presented facts that Deontay Wilder actually sells more pay-per-views than Errol Spence. Errol Spence is yet to touch 500,000. But I know I'm hating. I'm talking bad on Errol Spence comparing his pay-per-view numbers to Deontay Wilder, right? Like I said, once again, last time I checked, Deontay Wilder was black. So you look at Errol Spence's pay-per-views. Let's see. They saying he did. Let me see how many pay-per-views Errol Spence did have. He did have what, 3 or 4? Okay, he had a pay-per-view versus Mikey Garcia. They saying that did 200,000, something like that. He had a pay-per-view versus Sean Porter. They saying that pay-per-view did somewhere between 300,000. Then he had one versus Danny Garcia that supposed to did two 200,000. So you basically saying in 3 fights. Once again, let's do the numbers. I'm pretty sure a lot of people can count on here. So let's do the numbers. And don't try to say, well, that's because this. No, Wilder was the headliner in all his pay-per-views. Okay, so worst case scenario, Errol Spence, 200,000, 200,000, maybe 300,000. So you basically talking about 700,000 in pay-per-view sales, 700,000 pay-per-views. Deontay Wilder, once again, they're saying he did between 700,000. Some reports had him doing 900,000. So we're going to go to the highest decimal. Okay, we're going to do 900,000. Okay, so Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, part 2 does 900,000. That one fight alone has already outsold all 3 of Errol Spence's fights. So let's add the 200,000 from the first Tyson Fury fight. Okay, that's 1.1 million. Okay, so let's add the 175. So you're talking about almost 1.3 pay-per-view sales for Deontay Wilder. So you tell me who's the bigger pay-per-view star. Just putting that out there. But then, there's some stuff going on behind the scenes with Wilder. A lot of people be hating on Wilder. So I need for somebody to explain to me, where did I lie? So does that make me a hater because I came with numbers? So let me guess. I'm hating on Errol Spence when I just presented, according to PBC's own reports, that Wilder has actually sold more pay-per-views than Errol Spence. I know it's gonna be some people that's gonna come on here and start talking shit, but that's fine. Cause when you say something smart, you're gonna get blocked. I ain't even gonna respond to you. So I'm waiting. And first of all, let's talk about Canelo's pay-per-view sales. Canelo has had a few pay-per-views, but his last few fights have been on the zone. We don't know what Canelo's streaming services have been, because there was a question about how many pay-per-views Canelo was actually selling. Keep in mind, Oscar De La Hoya said he wasn't even gonna put out what the actual numbers was for Canelo's second fight versus Triple G. because Canelo wasn't really doing stupendous pay-per-view numbers. The only time Canelo did big pay-per-view numbers, the only time he did a million pay-per-views was with Floyd Mayweather. That's Floyd Mayweather. You did 2 million versus Floyd Mayweather. Okay? You did 2 versus Floyd Mayweather. And then you allegedly did a million versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., and that was for obvious reasons. But you didn't touch a million. They said you didn't really touch a million for Triple G. They said you did between 8 and 9. So, versus Triple G. Then we never got the real pay-per-view numbers. Oscar said he wasn't going to reveal the real pay-per-view numbers for the second fight with Triple G, which means that fight didn't do as good as they thought it would do. So that means it undersold. And the first reports made it look like they did close to 2 million pay-per-views, which they didn't. Let me explain something to you. Y'all know when there's a vibe for certain fights and when there isn't. I think Errol Spence versus Manny Pacquiao is going to do some decent number. I think this fight will do some solid numbers. But let's not make it look like Manny is doing the pay-per-view numbers that he was once doing. When Manny lost to Floyd Mayweather, his pay-per-view numbers declined dramatically. That's why Bob Arum was saying that he was losing money putting Manny Pacquiao on pay-per-view. Now, Manny Pacquiao versus Keith Thurman did some, from what they said, did maybe 300,000 to 400,000. Like I said, you never had the actual pay-per-view numbers because they never tell you the actual pay-per-view numbers. That's why you get various different reports from various different sources. Oh, well, it did this, it did that. Just like they were saying that Floyd Mayweather versus Logan Paul did over 1 million, but then the first report said that fight did like maybe 600,000. And then they saying that the fight sold like 25,000 tickets, but you got to understand that stadium holds like 65,000. And then you have to ask yourself how many tickets got comped. Then not to mention it was raining out there. And then it was an uneventful pay-per-view. Like I said, I'm not going to sit up here and say what none of these dudes want me to say because at the end of the day, I'm not getting a check from nobody. So I'm not going to say what they want me to say. Sorry, not going to do that. Even if you do send me a check, I'm still not going to do everything that you want me to do. That's just real talk. But I needed to put that out there because that needed to get said. But let's get back to Terrence Crawford versus Shawn Porter. If this fight fails to come to fruition, like I said before, as much as people have protected the PBC, they're going to have to look at the PBC and be like, hey, what's up? What's going on? Because you've been presented with an opportunity to outbid a rival promotional company, take one of their fighters and bring them over to your platform. Unless PBC don't have, and I'm not saying this, but this could be, maybe they don't have the bread that Bud may be seeking. And I'm not saying no stuff about they going broke. I know people been saying that, but that would be like, okay, so you supposed to be the premier, company. You supposed to be doing all these numbers and these big pay-per-view numbers. Okay, so where's the money at? So what are you saying? The fight may fall through. Like, how much you willing to put up for Bud versus Shawn Porter? Because like I said, this fight is supposed to fall right in your hands. And this is supposed to be the opportunity for you to entice Bud to come over to the PBC. So you shouldn't have a problem with paying Bud like whatever they bid. So if they bid $7 million, you shouldn't have a problem paying Bud whatever you gonna pay him. Because you supposed to be paying Manny Pacquiao like $25 million. So like I said, something is not adding up. The numbers are not adding up. The anticipation is not adding up, and then there's hesitation that appears on the part of Porter. That's just my observation. Not attacking Sean Porter, but these are things that came out of his own mouth. So I'm supposed to ignore stuff that came out his own mouth. I'm supposed to ignore the fact that he deleted tweets. Now, I know Sean isn't a big trash talker, but at the end of the day, fighters have to play a role in promoting their fights. And I think to a certain degree, that's hindered Bud a little bit because Bud doesn't say very much. You don't get a lot out of him unless he on Twitter or Instagram. And I wish Bud would do interviews the way he talks on Twitter and Instagram, because if that was the case, Bud would be a superstar. At the end of the day, it is about self-promotion. I mean, if you look at the Manny Pacquiao, Errol Spence um, presser, you know, you didn't really get much out of neither one of those dudes. So to a certain degree, it was uneventful. You got to, for real. One thing about Floyd, you're going to get something out of Floyd, like him or not. So, I just wanted to put that out there. But nevertheless, and I want to get back to Keith Thurman versus Tank Davis. That's not a good idea. Uh, I hope they not. I'm just going to be honest with you. To me, if they tried to make that fight for Tank, I'm thinking two things. Either they got extreme confidence in Tank, or they trying to possibly set Tank up. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm out. Thanks for tapping in. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to make this very clear once again. If you disagree with what I have to say, that's fine. But do not disrespect my channel. Tell me why you disagree, and then leave it at that. If you agree, okay, cool. You can explain why you disagree. If you're on the fence, explain why you on the fence. No fanboyism. Real talk. Thank you very much. I'm out.